a sign to let me know you're here. All of these lines are being crossed over the atmosphere. I need to know that things are gonna look up.
Like big time special needs. She goes, no. I have a little girl who's missing a finger. I have a little girl who's got a scar on her head. I have a little girl who had rickets, but now she's okay. And I go, that's not special needs. And she goes, it is over there. So with that, she said, I'm going to send you some papers. And so with that, we chose Leah, who's missing a finger, developmentally normal, but just missing a finger. And so now with that said, we did not get the financial reduction because she was in a government-run program, but it didn't matter. And so the game was on, the journey had begun. And my mom was very worried for us. And she kept saying, Deborah, when your mother calls you by the big name, you listen. Deborah. Yes, Mother. Isn't this very expensive? Yes, Mother. About $20,000 just for international fees. No travel, doesn't include the local home study. How can you afford this? And I go, Mom. It was like God gave me. I love this. It wasn't mine. It was God's. God goes, so Deborah. I said, Mom. I said, people in America think nothing of dropping $20,000 on a car. And in 5 years, they'll get a new one and start all over. I go, why can't I drop $20,000 on a kid? And she goes, she told me later, she goes, for me, that was it. That was a ceiling. She goes, good. There's the logic. Now I know what to tell other people when they're about to say this to me. So, now with that, Rocky kept saying, this is really expensive and I'm not going into debt. I want no debt. And he's like, which is really weird because I'm the money girl. I'm the one going very, careful. And Rocky's like, oh, God will provide, And so we balance each other out. Well, he's in the realm of going, no. I want to know where all the money's coming from. Well, in the meantime, when I was praying for those 2 years, and I'm working at my cute little Hallmark job, God had told me not to touch my money. So I had about, $8,000 or $9,000 in that account. So that paid for fees to get it going. But anyway, so it's a really long story, but we are debt-free from Leah. That God provided, amazing amount of money, and we did fundraisers, we worked, and then we had spoken at a couple churches, and God which if you were to look at that, Bill is our tax man. Would you like him to tell you? Go, that's amazing. We know what those people make. But it was really very exciting, and it's been quite the journey. She's been here since January. Came not knowing any English, and in 2 weeks we're having to spell words in front of her because she was very quick and very bright. One of our cute stories about her, we have 5 dogs, and she was horrified of any animal, dog, cat, didn't matter, any. So the dogs were living in the kitchen at the time, and we would take her for a walk and bring one of the dogs with us just to acclimate her, so to speak. So with her little limited English, the 3 of us were walking, and it's Rocky, Leah, myself, and then the dog. And she goes, Daddy happy. Well, that's because the dog's tail was wagging and kept saying nice things. Oh, see, the dog loves you. She's happy, happy tail. And she goes, Daddy happy, Mommy happy, Gracie the dog happy, and her Indian name is Swati happy. And it was really sweet. It was just, there's been some of those really sweet moments that you have with her, and she's no longer Swati. Do not call her Swati. She'll get in the car and go, Mommy, I know Swati. I'm Leah. I'm American girl now. And I go, I know. My son keeps calling her Swati. She goes, Josh keeps calling Swati. I know. So, I don't know. Any other details you want?
I want that straight up like that. That's right.
But it's been good. It is interesting, just because of the nature of who our personalities. Oh, I wanted to finish a story that Rocky did not finish. So me.
All right.
A detail. You missed an important. You told him about your hand. And that you were in the doctor's office and you asked the Lord, Rocky, what happened? Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was, instead of me being in a cast for a year, it was 6 weeks. And I went to get a new cast and the doctor said, your hand is healed. So my hand was healed as a young guy. And I told the doctor, my hand's healed. He goes, well, you got to give me some time. Like, when you put the cast on, how's that? Is that good?
But that's really important because that's how God works with Rocky. Debbie and the Lord, we're methodical. Debbie has to understand what God's doing. Debbie, the faith thing is a big deal for Debbie. Rocky, on the other hand, is not that way. Rocky is very open and, he cruises with the Lord. And Debbie is like Jacob. Debbie wrestles with the Lord. And so for him, to me, the adoption experience has been at times gut-wrenching. And I'm not an emotional person. We just switch bodies. Rocky's the hugger, the crier, and Debbie's the one. Like, our children want their father to discipline, not the mother.
That's
Okay?
right.
They know their mother will not have very little mercy. No, you did this, it's done. But so in the midst of that, it was pretty interesting what God was showing us and teaching us and revealing in our hearts. And it wasn't, the adoption process was like Rocky talked about, how God has adopted. You're all adopted. Did you not know that? Are any of you here Jewish? Because if you're not, you're adopted. Okay? So you're international. You're adopted. And it's very cool to think about that, how, what God has done for you in that respect. And you're not, and like Leah gets what Josh and Rachel get. They split. She's just, I will take anybody out like I would take anybody out if they insulted Josh, my bio kid. Do not cross my daughter in front of me. I will take you out. But the Lord does that for us. He sees you, he instantly grants you that, his protection, that barrier, when the enemy's going, I'm trying to get to you. Yeah, you got that barrier. Don't you? Yeah, because she's mine, he's mine. And Leah is ours. And she does get that, and she's, you can tell, when we first got her, Rocky has this thing on his camera. It took forever. Leah should have been here literally, a year and a half ago. And the enemy, the strongholds that are in adoption, you just need to pray. There's so many children standing over there in abject poverty, and around the world. We just happen to see the one place in India, in abject poverty. They sleep on a mat. They sleep on a foam mat. And on top of it, they have a little rug, and then they roll it up. And in defense of India, that's what a lot of people sleep on. That's very common. But still, Leah, the place was clean. I saw them bleach it twice a day, sweep it. But the plaster is chipping off the walls. It probably hasn't been painted for 30 years. They're thin. There's not one child in there that you would go, could stand and not eat so much rice. They're thin. The babies, because when we finally were allowed to go get her, the director decided she didn't want to give her up. It was a move that she was trying to, a point she was trying to make with the people that were working there, that she was the queen. So we'd gone to pick her up. We were supposed to get her on Monday, and she wouldn't sign the papers to release her. But with that, we got to see how the orphanage ran for 2 days. And our director in the U.S. said to us, he goes, how did you get in there? I can't get in there. And I don't know, God just gave us favor. But because there's things that I needed to see, so that when I come and tell people like you and go, I just need to tell you there's children out there who have nothing. They have nothing. And these little babies, I'm watching them sleep, and they're so cute, they're so itty bitty, bitty bitty, and they have chicken legs. There's no meat on their bones. It's not like being in America. And I'm looking at little healthy, 2-year-olds in here, chubby and cute. He's not really chubby, but they're all thin. I mean, Leah, I keep throwing food at her. You see her, she's still, I finally got 3 pounds on the child. She's still thin, but it's just such a different fray compared to America, where we have so much that you chuck, something out the window because you didn't feel like eating it. We saw, and when we were in Delhi, we always have a social worker with us. And we were going to the U.S. embassies, and we stopped, and there was a little street boy, and he had a balding spot. I would say he's probably maybe 8 or 9, long, matted hair with a balding spot due to lack of nutrition, and it was cold. So he had a little cape on, and he was doing what every 8-year-old would do when they saw this. A truck in front of him had stopped with some lumber that was wrapped in bubble wrap. He's over there popping the bubble wrap, just like any normal child. And then we saw him pull it off, and of course we've been in India long enough, we're going, what if he's going to try to steal a piece of that lumber, what is he doing? And he didn't. He tore off a piece of bubble wrap and just started eating it. And even our social worker, just about, you could hear her get a hold of herself. She wanted to go, no, and then all of a sudden she stopped. There's just this the human side of you wants to help somebody. You can't help somebody, and so you better just get a hold of yourself. And that was what India was like. That's what Leah's place was like. But with that, oh my gosh, these cute little girls who, we got to go see where Leah slept. And this one little girl just reached her hands up, and Rocky's like a Pied Piper. So he's all the little children come around him and reaches up and grabs him. She just grabs him around his neck and goes, but she doesn't let go. I mean, it's not like she just wants a quick hug. I mean, they're just, you know, they walk around with their little heads down and they walk holding hands. And, you know, we keep telling Leah, head up, and now she does. I mean, she's talking to you guys as if she's known you forever. We've drilled into the head, she's smart, we've drilled into her head, you have value, you have value, you have value. You know, you're special, you're special, you're special. And when I first started homeschooling her, in school, she supposedly was in school there, and if she didn't want to do it, she didn't have to. So after the 4th or 5th day of school, I handed her a piece of paper, and she just slid it back to me and smiled and goes, no. And I smiled back and go, yes, we're doing school. This is me and you, we're about to tangle here, baby. But that's because she doesn't feel smart. And so it must have been like, 6 weeks into it, that major alligator tears just fall down her face, and Rocky says, Mommy does this because she thinks you're so smart, and she just starts sobbing because she's been told she has no value. And now all of a sudden, for the first time, you have somebody saying you have values. Can you imagine that your whole life? Nobody telling you have value, and then at 7, somebody finally says you're worthless? Wouldn't that be such a shock? Rocky's got his father blessing him. And so there's children over there, there's children everywhere in the world. It's just we haven't got to see those, and anyway, it was a powerful. It's just something that you just don't walk away with and go, Jesus loves you, and then think that it's okay. And but with that said, I'm hoping if anybody ever thought about adopting, I have an agency for you. I can help you. I can do paperwork with you. I can tell you how to get some money. And I know there's children domestically that need homes, but it is, if God is speaking to your heart, you need to answer that, And Rocky's right. We are getting blessed. People kept saying, that little girl is so lucky to have you. And I'm like, us? No. I didn't have any more kids. I'm really grateful that God let me have her. It's just a blessing and a privilege to have her. So.
And tell the verse that God gave you.
Oh yeah, long time when we started the process, that I'm like, Lord, I need something more than just because you said so. And so Isaiah 1:17, and it says, learn to do good, which is always a fascinating thing, but God has to tell us to learn to do good. Learn to do good, seek justice, reprove the ruthless. I love that part. Reprove the ruthless, but it says, defend the orphan and plead for the widow. And the nation of Israel went into captivity for 70 years because in the book of Isaiah, he corrects them 3 times and says, you forgot the widow, you forgot the orphan, over and over again, because you're going into captivity. That's it. So how can we, as Christians, also not be held by the same standard? Are you remembering the orphans? Are you remembering? And widows here are treated differently. In India, I know that the women who are widows, like once your husband dies, you have nothing, and they throw you out because they just consider you to be eating their food. And so I get why the Lord is saying defend, to take care of the widows. In the U.S., I can't say that I see that like I see it in other parts of the world. But that is our verse. And with that said, that we're adopting another little girl named Savita. Savita Kate will be her name. And she's 8.5. She comes from northern India. And we were supposed to be flying next week, but due to the enemy ultimately, they don't know when we're traveling, but legally she's ours. But if you'll just pray for us in the name of Jesus to open that, I guess that's my biggest prayer. Even if you don't actually adopt a child, there's people that are. There's children over there who have parents here or around the world that want them. And just because of the strongholds that are assigned over different parts of the world, it is not an easy thing for the enemy to go, oh, okay, I'll let that one go. It is warfare. It is warfare to get those children out of there. And if you'll pray and ask them to just, for the Lord to place people who care about the orphans in those positions. For the Lord to remove the strongholds that are over those positions, so you can go and get them. I mean, typical government, they just instill a new government policy to help the system go smoothly. Anybody here ever work with the government?
I need a sign to let me know you're here.